first, to start off, it is the good old Mon motor, the 4.6 liter V8, and it originally from the factory made 300 horsepower and 320 foot-pounds of torque. Since then, I have upgraded the power, but kept it naturally aspirated. Okay, so first up is the Jlt Series 3 intake. At the time I got it, it was the largest intake available. It has just a standard K&N filter, you just oil, never had a problem with it. Now to run most of these intakes you're going to need, or to get any benefit out of them, you're going to need a tune. Now on this car I do have the Vmp Tune, it's a custom dyno tune. Now I would just recommend using the American Muscle tunes. They've been on point. I've done before and after dynos with the American Muscle tune and the custom dyno tune, and I really only think the custom dyno tune is worth it if your car is boosted. Now when you upgrade to the intake, you will make a bit more noise and it'll sound pretty good in my opinion. So coming up next is the 62mm Ford Racing throttle body. Now this throttle body was kind of expensive at $500. It does have a chrome finish which looks cool, but I found you get any kind of oil on it or water, it gets stained really easily. Now it is the largest throttle body you can get. I think the GT500 throttle body is a little bit smaller. Now this throttle body will give you great throttle response. I noticed an immediate difference. It won't really give you any more power, but when you get on that gas, it really just, it's a lot quicker, and it does make a pretty cool whistling sound. You can see some of my older videos. So moving along, next up is the Ford Racing intake manifold. Now this intake manifold was kind of expensive. It at almost $800. I did do before and after dynos with this, and it did get me 10 to 20 horsepower. You can see the dyno sheets before and after. Now that does include some of the other mods I'll go over here in a second. Now this does remove the motion control plates, which are little mini throttle bodies into the intake of your engine, and I found with the tune it ends up backfiring a little bit more. Now it will give you more top-end power, and in my opinion it looks great. So moving along, one of the mods you can't really see is the AC delete. I no longer have the condenser up front there. Now if you're like me, drive around town, I never use the AC to begin with. Just roll the windows down and listen to the V8 soundtrack. So it wasn't much of a loss when I drove this car as a daily driver, but now that it's a race car, it really helps because it gets rid of about 20-35 pounds in the front end, right where you want to remove it. So another thing you can see right here is the Boss 302 strut tower brace. Now this strut tower brace is an OEM part. You can see, unlike some of the other ones, it only connects at 2 bolts here. And I found the 4-bolt ones don't look as good, and I don't really believe they give you any more structural rigidity. Now, even if your car is a daily driver, I would recommend this. It does give you, the front end is a lot more planted, less chassis flex, an overall easy and cheap mod that will definitely give you better feedback. So one of the things you'll see that's missing is the battery. Now the battery is now relocated in the trunk, and what that does is relocates weight to where it's needed. Being that it's a large V8, you're going to want to move weight to the back of the car where there isn't as much weight. Now I did find that it did give you a little bit more traction, the car is a little bit better balanced, and not only that, your battery will last a little bit longer because it's not exposed to the extreme heat of your engine bay. So next up, the mod you can't really see are the hot rod cams, but you can certainly hear them in some of my videos, like here. Now with the hot rod cams, you don't have to change the springs or anything. They're fairly mild, and probably eventually I'll upgrade to the competition cams, which gets you a little bit more power. Now the advantage of running the cams, if you have full headers and everything else, you'll just get more power combined with everything else. Now the disadvantage running the cams are your car will vibrate more, obviously, if it's a daily, and you do have a little bit of higher engagement speed. So if you're like me and you run a 410 rear end and you're trying to creep along or creep onto a trailer, it makes it very difficult to drive. So I would not recommend it if you have a manual, a 410 rear end, and it's a daily driver. Just makes it kind of miserable when you get stuck in traffic. So now to the exhaust system. It is a ceramic coated BBK long tube header. It does go to a catless X pipe, which is sort of illegal if you want to drive around town in some states. Some states don't have smog emissions testing and everything. And they are cracking down on more of that stuff, so you want to be careful. I would recommend just getting a catted system if it's a daily driver. But if you're like me and it's more of a toy that you rarely ever drive on the road and take it to competitive driving events, definitely get a catless system. And the catless X pipe just sounds great. Now the cap back exhaust is actually bone stock. You can upgrade to the 3-inch, but for the money, I don't really think it's worth it. In the back, we'll go over later. It's a Bassani 2-chamber muffler. It's kind of loud, but really only loud on throttle. Now another mod you can't really see is the steel braided clutch line. And this one is just from SR. It wasn't very expensive, about $80. And what it does is gives you a bit more reliability. The stock clutch line is plastic and is prone to failing under, at the limits like I do with this car. So I would highly recommend upgrading to the steel braided clutch line if you do any kind of competitive racing or anything just besides driving around town. Now to finish up the video, some of the things you won't notice that I haven't done to the engine. It's not built. It's got the standard ignition, standard spark plugs. From everything all the Ford techs have told me, just leave that alone. Now you can build this motor, but I found that it's probably just cheaper if you blow it up to just replace it. Mod motors are a dime a dozen nowadays, so you can spend $6,000, $7,000 building it to get a few extra horsepower, or you just strap a supercharger onto it, use it till it busts, and then just replace it, or get a Coyote motor for $6,500. So going forward, that's pretty much exactly what I'm going to do. Put on a nice Eaton Roots supercharger for about $4,500. Make about 500 horsepower. The limit on this block supercharge is probably around 550. As it sits now, it makes a little over 400 and 340 something to the wheels. You can see again down here below on the dyno sheet. So that's about it. Let me know if I missed something. Let me know if you want any more detail on anything. I can always do a part 2, and I definitely will do a part 2 eventually when I supercharge the car, and obviously I'm going to have to do some more things to the engine to keep it cool with the supercharger, which is an advantage of keeping it now naturally aspirated. Coming up next, we'll do suspension, interior, exterior, and I hope you like the series. Thanks for watching.